Thanks for joining us for the Inside Track on Real Estate. It's with the Decker team, and I am Yetta Decker.
And I'm Ken Decker.
And today we're going to talk about tactics in a shifting market. What things you'd want your realtor to be thinking about, concerned about, and doing on your behalf.
And before we go there, let's throw a curve on the track. And Yetta, you've been in the business a little while. You've seen a shifting market. We're in a shifting market right now. There are many real estate companies, many realtors out there that are, I would say, ignoring the signals, or maybe don't know what the signals are living in the past, aren't coaching their sellers correctly. Their sellers are sitting, not buying. Not selling.
Right.
Not selling. The buyers
and maybe
aren't.
not buying too, because they have to sell to buy.
Yeah, and right. A lot of it has to do with they were in the mode of pricing above what the last house sold for.
And that was working great in a market that was going up for the last, dozen years. We've had that kind of market in the Ottawa area for 12 years.
Now, you and I have seen a shift in the market before. About 1994?
Well, it started in 92 and carried on till really 99 probably.
Okay. Yeah. So in those years, what was the top number of realtors in the Ottawa board?
2,800 realtors.
So around 2,800 was kind of the top. Yeah. And then the shift happened, and in that time it was only about 3 years that values dropped a little bit, a couple percent each year.
Well, it was really a bit of a shift in the market for about 7 years, right? Like it was just a slower market. It became, in most marketplaces or most neighborhoods, it became more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. And it really began in the early 90s and carried on to the latter part of the 90s.
Yeah.
And in certain areas, and that's what you're thinking about, is the statistics don't all show that across the board.
Right.
Certain areas rebounded quicker than other areas. Country areas did take a fair bit longer to rebound and really did exist there for about 7 years.
Right. And that was kind of 94, 95, 96. Prices went down on a whole in the Ottawa board.
Right.
And not a lot. We're talking like 1-2%
up
a year.
to even 3, I think. Yeah.
Right. And then it recovered all of that when the market shifted again.
Right. In 99, 2000.
Yeah. So at the end of that cooling off period where it was a buyer's market, how many realtors were in the Ottawa Real Estate Board?
1,400.
1,400. Yeah. So really we went down to half as many salespeople. Right. And I attribute that reduction in that they didn't know how to handle that market. And now, how many realtors are we at now?
We're back at 2,800.
About 2,800.
Yeah.
And so of the 1,400 that were in the business in the mid to late 90s,
yeah.
How many of those 1,400 do you think still are in real estate?
Probably 800 to 1,000. I'm guessing
it's
a little
total
bit.
guess, but with retirement and attrition and that sort of thing, probably another 400 or so got out. So there's about 1,000 realtors of the 2,800. You and I are in that 1,000 that have truly experienced a shift in the market and know what to do to make sure our clients' homes sell.
Right, because it's still in that shift. Homes still sold every month of the year. There wasn't a month we didn't sell properties. There wasn't a month people didn't buy properties. You just had to come at it a little, well, not a little differently, significantly differently than you had in a market that was increasing.
Okay, so if people want to sell in this market, which is a shifting market, experience may help a lot. Well, now, it's not to say that someone that's inexperienced doesn't know what to do if they've had the right training, but the odds are that we're 2,800 realtors right now. If the shift lasts for 3 or 4 years, we may be down to 1,400 realtors again, because realtors drop out who can't sell or can't proactively find people to buy or sell with them.
Right.
Would that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what we've seen before, and I'm sure we're going to see it again. And this shift is actually overdue. As much as it's never nice to have a shift, it's not happy news, it's not fun for us or for the sellers, because you've got to start changing even how you do things. Sellers have to change their expectations, change what they're prepared to do in terms of preparing the home for market. And in terms of pricing, it just means being way less of a, can we throw it out on the market and see what it's worth? We have to be very analytical about it and be intentional about what we're going to do. So if we want to throw it out there just to see what happens, not really an ideal market to do that in, because you're not likely, it's in all probability, you're going to end up with zero results.
One of the great things about this shift in the market that I think of is because most of the time a shift in the market, we are subjected to outside forces that we can't control. This shift in the market is actually government induced. Right. The government put policies in place to slow down the real estate market so that we wouldn't accelerate too fast beyond the economy and then have a big crash.
Which is what we saw in a lot of the markets in the States.
Right.
Not all neighborhoods and not all communities or all states. However, more often than not, that was one of the challenges, along with some banking issues. Right?
And so they made some financial decisions and how people qualify for mortgages to purposely slow down the economy without raising the interest rate. Because if they raise the interest rate, they affect the entire economy, not just the real estate industry. So by doing this, they've actually really just slowed down the real estate market in a nice way, because we're kind of just leveling out. We may see a slight increase or a slight decrease in the prices. That's still to be determined yet. But the sales have slowed down. The inventory is up significantly. So supply and demand. If we've got more inventory and fewer buyers, typically the price is going to sneak down a little bit. But it's really a leveling out because we've kind of been above the curve of where we need to be.
Of where we typically are in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Right? Of what is sustainable in the Ottawa market from a price increase. We've been above that for the last several years now. And so therefore this is really just more of a minor correction likely that's about to take place.
Okay, so really what we've done is we've put together from our past experience 10 tactics that smart sellers will use in this shifted market with their real estate agent.
Right.
Would that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay, so let's go through the top 10 tactics to handling the shifted market.
Yeah, the first one is huge. It's get real, get right, and take action. And so that really is in combination with your realtor. It's be aware and understand what the market's doing. Don't rely too heavily on previous statistics. Stay very aware and very apparent and real with what's happening today. How many days on market are properties staying now in your particular neighborhood? What are the last properties that actually sold and what didn't sell? And that's probably more important. So often a seller will say, well, look at these ones. These ones are all on the market now. My house is better than any of these. So if I price the same or slightly above them, I'm better value than they are. Yes. And the challenge with that is those properties aren't sold. And so therefore the fact that they're on the market and they're inferior to yours and you're going to price yours about the same or slightly higher just makes you in direct competition with them because they're not selling.
So we want to compare not to the ones that are on the market, the ones that were in the market that sold last month or the month before.
Right.
And we don't want to go too far back because if we start going, 6 months is maybe okay, but we're coming out of the spring.
Have to.
Sometimes we have to find a comparable, but if there's recent sales in the last month or two, we're going to put a lot more value on those comparables than something that happened in the spring or last fall or something like that, where the market hadn't shifted the same way yet.
Correct.
Okay.
And so that's about getting real. And then shifting that mindset to be in an alignment with what's really happening in the market. There's no point in being delusioned by what's going on or being throwing off the perspective. The actual perspective of what's happening needs to be taken into consideration and then take action accordingly.
So the old saying, we don't make the market, we only interpret it.
Right.
And help you to interpret it so that you can make a wise business decision.
Right. And our focus is to interpret the market accurately. And our approach has always been, and a lot of sellers find this confusing because they've seen other realtors or dealt with other realtors in the past. They'll say, so what's it worth? What can I sell it for? And I'll say, well, let's look at what the market's doing. Let's look at the actives. Let's look at the solds. Let's look at what has been on the market that did not sell, the expireds, the withdrawns, the canceled. And now let's together assess that. You assess it on your time. I'll send you the analysis. You can review everything in detail. If you're high C personality, we've talked about that in previous shows, somebody that needs to analyze thoroughly, you're going to spend more time and energy on this. In any event, when we look at the raw data and attempt to remove ourselves from being attached to your house specifically, in terms of your personal attachment to it, your emotional attachment to it, you and I should arrive and ought to arrive and have to arrive at the same number. There should be no real variation, short of a little bit of subjective value that always comes into play in real estate. Beyond that, we ought to be able to look at the same hardcore facts data. You be informed because we're going to provide you the additional information that we know about the neighborhood, the property, the statistics, or the information behind that sale, the specific situation or circumstance. And then we ought to arrive at the exact same number, really. Mm-hmm. So we ask you to engage with us in that because it is not about us convincing you the value. It's about you being able to see it as we see it. So sometimes I'll play a little game when people are reluctant to do that. And they'll say, no, you tell me. It's like, well, I have the answer. I would like you and I to arrive at the answer independently, and then let's put it together and discuss if there's any need to narrow it down further. So I'll sometimes say, here's a scrap piece of paper, one for each of us. You write down your number, everybody's sitting around the table, and in the same split second, let's flip it over and see where we end up. And then we know that there's truth and honesty, and you don't have to doubt that your realtor is telling you what really the market is saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so tactic number 2 is to find the motivated.
Right.
Lead generation, it's an interesting term. Realtors need to find people who want to buy or sell a house. And really what we're doing is we have a certain number of houses that we have up for sale, and also we have houses that our whole company has up for sale. We have 100 realtors in our company. And then there's realtors, the 2,800 that have houses up for sale that are on the board. And so we're looking for motivated buyers for those houses. Right. Now, how we lead generate and how we qualify them finds the motivated buyer, not the ones that are just looking for a steal, and if it happens this year or next year or the year after, that's fine. I mean, we may work with some of those or just send them some information, but we're looking for the motivated, the ones that want to buy a house, need to upgrade, need to move in with their parents. If they don't buy a house and they don't want to do that, or the ones that need their parents to move in with them and they need a bigger house, or people that are transferred in, these are the motivated buyers. They need to buy. So our goal in the Decker team is for each of us to contact 100 people a day. Or not a day, sorry, a week. 100 people a week. And look for the motivated buyers. Ask our previous clients, our sphere of influence, people we run into. Real estate's not a 9-to-5 job. It's you're at the grocery store and people know you're in real estate. They're going to come and talk to you about real estate. So sometimes we're finding a motivated buyer while we're buying our milk and bread at the grocery store. And that's okay. But that's what we do. We live and breathe it. We blend it in with our family and our day-to-day things. Yeah, so finding the motivated buyer is tactic number 2.
Yeah. And getting to the table, lead conversion. So it's one thing to find the motivated.
So this is tactic number 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Moving on to tactic number 3. So it's how do you communicate with somebody? Now you've found a person that is interested in buying or selling, and now we need to be able to let them know the benefits and the advantages of that specific property, or maybe the whole reason for buying in this particular market. Mm-hmm. So being able to actually get them into that property.
Because in a tighter market is actually a great time to move up. Because if you have to reduce your price a little bit to get it gone, someone that's in a higher price range has to reduce theirs, probably the same percentage, but it's more money. So you're actually coming out ahead, moving up in a tight market or a decreasing market.
Exactly. So that's important. And then another very important tactic in a shifting market and in any market, because all these things are important regardless of what kind of market we're in. They just become with heavier emphasis and more vital in a shifting market.
Especially if you want to be one of those 1,400 realtors that's still in the business in 3 to 4 years.
Well, and helping clients actually get the property sold.
Yes.
Right?
It's a two-edged sword.
It is.
We want to be in business, and the only way we can stay in business is by actually helping people buy and sell houses. Right. Because we only get paid when we do a result.
Correct. So internet marketing is vital.
So this is number 4.
Number 4.
Thanks. I'll keep you on track. You
Perfect,
just go.
Ken. So getting those folks that are out there, maybe even casually looking at this point, and encouraging them to come see property. So The videos that we're doing now has been increasing traffic on our sellers' properties over what might have been happening otherwise and what's happening for other folks. And so being wise and being a little bit inventive about how do we actually reach those people.
Interesting. And so pricing it right, we're going to go back to there again for a minute. Okay. Pricing it right is tactic number 5.
Yep.
Interesting, in a shifting market or a market that maybe the prices are going down, because what I found before is if you're in a market that's going up, you almost can't price wrong as long as you're willing to wait long enough. Because what's happening is, let's say this is market value of your house, and unfortunately you can't see this if you're on CHRI, but you can go on our website at deckerteam.com and see the video of it. Right. And then you can see my hands and my gestures and be able to say what I'm doing. So if the value of your property is, let's say, $200,000, and you price it at $210,000, and the market's going up, eventually the market will catch your price, and you'll be affordable, and your house will sell. Right. And it might take 3 months, 6 months, whatever. If the market's going down, and the value of your house is $200,000, and you put it at $210,000, you're no longer leading the market. You're behind the market. And so 3 months, 6 months down the road, it's worth $190,000. Now you make a price adjustment, you bring your house down to $200,000, you're still chasing the market. You're still above what market value is. 3 months later, it's worth $180,000. You bring it down to $190,000, you're chasing the market down rather than leading the market. So when the market's going up, you're going to lead the market by pricing just over what the one sold last. If the market's going down or stagnant, we need to be priced right at what price the last one sold and let the market determine whether they're going to bid a little over it or a little under it. That's the way to get a home sold in the shifting market.
Yeah, exactly. So pricing tight to the market is what you're saying.
Yes.
Not a lot of variation. The other question I'll often have is, well, can't we build in some flexibility? Can't we build in some negotiating room? And the challenge that happens there more often than not, is especially in a tight market, the property, in fact, doesn't get any offers at all. There is no opportunity to negotiate because there's no written contract that ever shows up.
And a strong negotiator doesn't need a lot of negotiating room.
No.
They'll get very close to asking price if you're priced tight to the market.
Yeah.
We don't have to take thousands and thousands of dollars off the price.
Not at all. Our average right now is sitting at over 99% asking to selling ratio. So that's not a whole lot of money built in to negotiate.
We're strong negotiators, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Excellent.
Yeah. And if you're just joining us now, you're with the Inside Track with the Decker team on real estate. And today we're talking about shifting market tactics. So what do you do? How do you manage things in a market that is maybe not going up anymore? In fact, a market that may be going down or is a little bit stagnant. So prices are flat and days on market are increasing a little bit. Inventory's going up. What do we do? We've already talked about the 5 tactics. So if you want to hear those and you're just joining us now, go on back and listen to those at chri.ca or watch us at deckerteam.com. And so let's move on to the rest of the tactics.
Okay, so tactic 6, stand out from the competition. One of the things we're finding is inventory is at a 5-year high.
Right.
We've never had in the last 5 years as much inventory, that means houses for sale on the market, as we have right now. So there's a lot of competition. And how do you stand out in the competition? You be the best.
Right. You win the beauty contest.
You got to win the beauty contest. Not only are you in a pricing competition, you're in a beauty competition. Right. And so preparing your home, having it properly marketed and set up for marketing.
Right. Home preparation, premium home preparation is how I might describe it.
Yeah. And we're very experienced at that, making a home really stand out compared to the competition. And a lot of that can be the pictures, the quality of the videos that you put on. What
quality of the photos? Are they dark rooms? Are they too tight? Have you used too wide an angle?
You distort everything.
Right. You have to be really balanced in your approach and making it as accurate as possible and enhancing the appeal so that people can embrace what they're seeing. And when they come to the property, it echoes what they've already seen. Those are all really important things about having it look great.
Yes, and And so that's hugely important in this market, even more important than in the past. We have to present your property in the absolute best light possible. And we do that through our proven system of putting homes on the market and preparing them and getting the best value for the houses. That's one of the reasons we're, other than being a strong negotiator, that's one of the reasons we're at 99% of our asking price.
99 and a quarter right now.
Oh, is it? 99 and a quarter. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's pretty close. Pretty close to exactly what we're asking. And our days on market are significantly lower than the average on the MLS. And we're a couple percent actually higher in our percentage of asking price than the average MLS. So if you're just looking for someone average, maybe you're not calling the Decker
You're
team.
not.
Okay.
Please don't. Okay. So number 7 is create urgency and overcome buyer and tenant objections and concerns and reluctance in getting in the market. Why is that a tactic to be used in a shifting market?
Well, because sometimes if the market is going down, even if it's going down slowly, buyers say, I'll just wait. The price will be better in 6 months, or the price will be better in a year. Why would I buy it now if in the future it might be a little less? So again, pricing it properly so it appeals that it's good value compared to the other 75% of the houses that aren't selling. We have to be good value. That's going to create...
That aren't selling this month, right?
Yeah, that aren't selling this month. That's going to create some value that buyers will say, there's a bit of urgency. Someone else might buy that good value. Okay, and it shows really nice. I don't have to do any maintenance. I don't have to clean it up. I don't have to repaint. I just move in.
Or I'm getting a real bargain because I'm an investor and I'm looking for something that's under market value, under condition, and I'm getting the value. So it really becomes a conversation about value. What's the value to that property? And
now it's also about affordability. Right. Because we are right now at the lowest interest rates we've had in a long time. And so you can lock in money right now for 10 years at like 3.89 or somewhere around there. Just over 3 or very close to 3 for 5-year locked in terms. This is significantly low. Let's say prices went down $5,000 and interest rates went up 1%, you would be paying more per month for that house than you would now buying it at $10,000 more or whatever. You'd pay more if the interest rate went up and the value of the house went down by $10,000.
Right. And so it really becomes...
So it affects affordability.
Yeah, it's affordability. And that's the conversation we have with buyers or people renting right now in terms of, does it make sense? Absolutely it makes sense because of the amazing interest rates. And we can't guarantee that the interest rates are going to stay as low as they are. Even going up 1 or 2 points of a percent will impact the affordability. And all of a sudden that decrease in price is vanished because you're paying more for the money.
Yes, and only like 5 years ago, 3 to 5 years ago, interest rates were extremely low, and they were at 5
and 6,
5 and a quarter.
Yeah.
And that was extremely low.
Right.
And so it's not unheard of that in a couple years, interest rates could be a couple points higher.
Right.
And if that happens, affordability of housing goes down.
Right. So it's a great time.
It's a great time for a buyer to buy.
Tactic number 8, I think, is where we're at.
Yes, exactly.
And creative financing has gotten more challenging over the last months, just simply because of the changes in the lending policies and practices. And yet, with a really great mortgage specialist, there are still abilities and tactics that can be utilized that are above board and correct and accurate to make it easier to purchase a particular property. So those are really seen on a very individual basis. We would refer you to somebody that we trust implicitly and have them assist you in determining if there is some amazing financing options. And there are. We've done quite a few that are creative.
And sometimes a seller can net more on their house by offering a seller take-back mortgage for a small percentage of the house, or maybe interest rates do go up, and creatively we can have somebody assume your lower rate mortgage so that they get a better monthly payment, so your house is worth more. So we're used to this sort of thing. Rent-to-owns can start to become popular, where now there isn't the free down payment anymore or the cashback system. So There may be a system where someone will rent a house, they have to sell a house.
Tenant, it's an occupancy period.
Yeah,
it's not really rental because the Landlord and Tenant Act doesn't actually apply.
Yeah, so it's a purchase with a price set out, you know, a year or two out, and an increased rent, so that part of it goes to the occupancy and part of it goes towards the down payment, so they can build their down payment over time. Right. So that's a fantastic option.
Right. And tactic number 9, rolling right along, is just mastering an area of expertise within the given market. So the realtor really has to be proactive, and you have to work in unison with the realtor to take advantage of that expertise in that particular venue or type of market.
Yeah, and really knowing what's going on in your micro market.
Right.
Really carefully, and knowing what's happening. And then what I say is we price watch.
Right.
We look very, very carefully at what the market's doing. So as we put your home in the market to sell, and then we'll look every week what has sold, what's come on the market, are we still competitive, are we just sitting because other houses are selling, or has a new one come on that makes ours not a good value anymore. So all kinds of things we're watching proactively every week to make sure that we're
And you're looking
at
that information with us because we're sending it out to you in a weekly report.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And number 10, bulletproofing the transaction and making sure that there are no potential issues, or alleviating as many as humanly possible at time of closing of the transaction. So that's huge in any market.
Right.
Even more of a challenge in a shifting market, because as times are tight and economic times are a little more difficult and the market's a little more volatile, it would take less reason for somebody to walk away.
Yes, and we want to make sure that they can't walk away. Once the transaction's firm, I mean, we make it very easy for them to walk away during the conditional period while they're getting their financing and they're doing their home inspection and that.
Because you don't want to end into a legal lawsuit over something that there need not be. People have to want to purchase your home at least during that period.
Yeah, and then once they've fulfilled those, our contracts are written so they're ironclad. We want to make sure that every T is crossed, every I is dotted, and we put in the proper conditions and clauses to protect you from future lawsuits or misunderstandings at closing, what was included, what wasn't included. We want to make sure that we have an ironclad, bulletproof transaction. And that's tactic number 10.
Right. And so thank you for joining us today on the Inside Track on real estate. And the shifting market is going to create success for those that choose it. So success isn't for the chosen few, it's for those that choose it. So you as sellers, if you choose that you're going to have success in selling your home and getting a good value for home and negotiating good terms and good possession dates, it's doable. We simply have to choose it and employ those strategies and tactics that make a difference in this market. So thanks for joining us on the Decker team with the Inside Track on real estate. And I'm Yetta Decker.
And I'm Ken Decker, and you've been listening to the Inside Track on real estate. If you have questions that you want answered immediately, give us a call at 613-860-4663. And if you'd like to email us a question, you can do that at deckerteam@chri.ca. And we look forward to talking with you next week. Bye for now.
Thanks a lot for joining us. Bye-bye.
What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you.